Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Restful State. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm so grateful that you're joining me for this 8-week-long experience that starts with today's class all about grounding. So I want to share a little bit about me and why I'm offering this experience with you, and then we're going to go over some kind of housekeeping, logistical considerations, and then we'll get into our practice. So I've been teaching yoga for 12 years, going on 13. Brings me so much joy to teach this practice with others, for others. And the reason why I'm teaching specifically about rest this winter is because it's taken a lot for me to actually learn how to rest myself in my adulthood. So everything that I'm sharing with you during this 8-week-long journey are things that I've deeply contemplated, I practice regularly, and I find that it's important for me to regularly practice and to constantly remind myself of the tools that I'll be sharing with you, and find that when I really allow myself to experience the practices and the teachings that I'll be sharing with you, that my whole world benefits, my relationships, my day-to-day living, so much benefits from my ability to rest. So I, again, thank you so much for being here. So now let's move on to some housekeeping considerations. I'll be recording each class that we have. You can join live. I encourage you to join live if you can. Even if you're not feeling so great that day, you're more than welcome to join and just do what you can, even if it means keeping your video off and closing your eyes and just taking in the practice without necessarily doing as much of a physical practice. So you can come as you are each week. If you're not able to attend live, I will always be recording the classes and we'll share them thereafter with you. And you'll be able to download those recordings onto your computer for lifelong access. The other consideration is that music will be provided each week through Spotify. You can follow that playlist, and I'll just tell you when to press play on a separate device. For example, if you're watching on your computer, you can keep a phone handy and press play through Spotify app. I will be keeping you posted if anything changes. There's the possibility I may be incorporating the music into the class through Zoom, but there are some legal and technical considerations I need to figure out. And if that does indeed feel possible, I will be doing that. In the meantime, we're going to keep the music on a separate device. So the other thing to consider are props. For today's class, I've suggested to all of you to have at least 2 blankets handy. However, depending on your body, and we have a lot of body variation, abilities vary throughout our students in terms of what physical abilities there are, injuries, other considerations. So this class is really all about you and how you feel comfortable moving through shape to shape. Some classes like today's are going to be more on the restorative side, specifically in the lines of a practice called yin, which focuses on long held postures. And some classes will be a little bit more of a vinyasa flow style. So some styles may resonate with you depending on where you're at in your life more so than others. So my recommendation is to take them as they are, just like you're taking yourself as you are. Do what feels right. You know, if something doesn't feel so great, then see if you can tweak a shape to make it compatible for your body in the moment. With that said, props are absolutely encouraged. I'm going to be working with bolsters. You can also include pillows, as many as you'd like to have on hand. We may be working with a strap at some point, and I always have about 2 blocks handy just in case. So recommend you have as many props and supports as is appropriate for you and that you have on hand. So those are my little housekeeping tidbits. We're going to be in the live recording sharing a little bit more individually in terms of, you know, what you feel comfortable sharing as a student. Today's recording is actually a second recording from our live because the audio didn't transfer so easily. So hopefully from next week on, the live recordings will also incorporate all of the live participants' voices and experiences, as well as just my teaching. So let's begin. We're going to start into a child's pose. So as you make your way into child's pose, situate your knees so that they're about as wide as your yoga mat, and let your big toes meet behind you as you sit down on your feet. And then from here, go ahead and extend your spine forward. Now, some of you may want to slide a bolster underneath your torso and rest one cheek on your bolster. And I'll let you know when to switch cheeks if you choose this option. Others of you who have perhaps big bellies, we have a pregnant student in our group. You may want to just rest your forearms in a bolster to allow for space for your belly. Some people also will want to be here just for spinal length and for space in the chest. You may also allow your spine to completely drape down towards the floor with the palms outstretched, stretching your forehead on the floor, or sliding a blanket underneath your forehead or a pillow for a little bit of extra padding. And go ahead and close your eyes if they're not already, but actually before we dive in, go ahead and press play on your music. So after you press play on your music, close your eyes and let your head rest downward. Just so you know, I'm going to be varying the postures myself just so that I'm a little bit more upright so you can hear me better. But feel free to drop down as much as possible in this moment. While you're here, feeling the sound of the music start to make way through the room. Notice that sound of the music begin to touch all of the cells of your body. So just like the sound of a tuning fork radiates through the room, feel the way that all those little particle parts of your body, those millions or trillions of cells, start to enliven through the sound of the music. And use that sensation of vibration of sound pulsating through your body as a way to experience your here-ness. Observing thoughts and noticing at any point in this practice if your thoughts are somewhere else in the realms of time or space. So time being thoughts are perhaps in the past or in the future other than present. Or they may be in different places than where you are now, situated in scenarios in different parts of the country or the world. And if you notice that your thoughts wander away from the present moment, very gently and compassionately draw them back into the here-ness of this moment. Just like the way little children catch butterflies in jars in summer. Just notice yourself very gently catching your thoughts and drawing them back into yourself in this moment. In these last few moments of this shape, this asana, feel the way that your body is making contact with your mat or the props beneath you. And allow your body to experience gravity. So, gravity is a longing force, a force of nature that is constantly yearning for our bodies to release into the support of the ground. So, as you're here, allow for the weightiness of the bones to fully realize themselves. All the roughly 8 pounds of your head releasing, and the density of your body feeling supported to fully release into the ground beneath you. Just take one more full breath in and out here. And then from here, slowly walk your palms back towards your knees, rising your spine back up. And then release whatever props you may have had beneath your body. Place your palms towards the top of your mat so that your hands are wide and your pinkies are just touching the outer edges of your mat. And then go ahead, tuck your toes and lift your knees, stretching up and back into downward facing dog. So while you're in downward facing dog, shift your gaze towards your palms and allow for a widespread width in between each finger. And notice that your fingers are not clenching, they're not gripping, they're softly lengthening out from the center of each palm. And as you keep taking a look at your palms, notice your index finger knuckles and anchor them into the earth like two plugging devices. And as you press down and palm back, down and forward through your hands, feel the way your tailbone extends up and back. And then drape that energy down into the heels releasing towards the earth. Take a nice full breath in and out. And as you look forward, step your palms to meet your feet to meet your hands, rather. You can keep your feet as wide as your hips. As you inhale, rise onto the fingertips, or if you can't quite reach the floor, you can keep your palms on your shins. Ever so slightly bend your knees so that energy can move freely up and down the bones of the legs without locking through the joint space. And as you keep that slight bend in the knees, slowly fold your spine over your legs. Now, as you're here, you may find that you might want to keep an upright spine rather than folding, depending on where you're at today in your body. So if you're here and you'd like a little bit of support, I recommend using your two blocks underneath your two hands and staying upright here, focusing on extending long from the tailbone through the crown of the head. Otherwise, go ahead and allow your head to move lower than your heart. Now, as you're here in this forward fold, start to rock your hips front and back, side to side. And notice as you rock your hips in this way, what happens to the way you place weight in each foot. So as you lean over to the right with your hips, feel that you can settle your weight more concretely into your right foot. You can even exhale out and imagine the breath traveling all the way down and through the sole of your right foot. And then go ahead and lean your hips over to the left and again, resettle into the sole of your left foot. And then see if you can situate your hips straight in between the 2 feet and then refold your spine over your legs. Now, go ahead and you can walk your feet out a little wider if you'd like, but we're gonna bend our knees and come into squat pose, malasana. So as you make way to squats pose, if your heels are a little high and they can't quite reach the floor, you can roll a blanket underneath the heels and then release your heels onto that blanket. You may also decide you'd like to slide a block underneath your hips to get a little bit more support and height here. Wherever you are, bring your palms to meet in front of your chest. And let the thumbs touch the sternum. The sternum is the little bony plate in front of your heart. That is where the front ribs meet in front of your chest. Just use your thumbs to gently lift your sternum up as you settle into your pelvis and feet. And here, just like we were doing in our forward fold, you can start to rock your hips from side to side. And as you rock, let's say to the right, feel again the way that you settle your weight down into your right foot. And then lean over to the left and Settle your weight a little bit deeper down into your left foot. And again, draw your hips more or less in between the 2 feet and settle down deeper through your tailbone. Now, in terms of grounding, our directionality of weight is never a one-way street. It's always a two-way street. So as you feel your capacity to settle and release further into the floor, also feel a little and gentle reverb of length and space up through the crown of the head. And you might notice the deeper you anchor into the earth, the more capacity you have to lengthen upward. Just like the way a basketball player who's about to do a high jump squats down really low before launching into the sky. The more ability we have to settle and release towards the earth, the more eventual capacity we have to expand and broaden into our lives, the space around us, external scenarios, but it starts here in our ability to ground. And we're going to move back into forward fold, extending the legs, lifting the hips. And again, inhale, extend long through the spine, and exhale, refold. Now, you may, if you feel like you are able to go a little bit deeper than you were before, for a little bit more practice and joints opening and softening, you may want to bring your hands behind your calves. Just use your hands meeting your calves to gently draw your sternum down and in. Otherwise, again, stay upright with the spine, either fingertips on the floor or hands on blocks, maintaining length and space through the front of your chest and belly. And feeling the pathway of weight from your two sitting bones, which are the bony protrusions at the base of each pelvic half. Trace a line from those two bony bits at the back of each hip all the way down towards your heels. And feel as you fold that pathway of weight anchoring down like you're zippering a zipper down from your sitting bones to your heels. So if you notice your hips are too far back, see if you can get your sitting bones straight up over your heels and then resettle into your fold to keep that pathway of weight vertical from the sitting bones to the heels. And we're going to move into a squat one more time. So 2 forward folds and 2 squats. Settling in. Again, allowing your spine to sway a little bit. And as this class is really all about grounding, feeling again and again into that point of contact where you and the ground are meeting. And settling into that space. In this moment, it's your feet. But that cue can translate into any pose or any life circumstance. Wherever you're meeting the ground, settle in. Two more rounds of breath here. And then from here, we're gonna extend our legs and step back into downward facing dog once more. Noticing any shifts that have occurred so far in the length you feel throughout your bones, the depth of breath, the spaciousness of mind. And then draw your left knee towards your left wrist and settle your hips down for pigeon pose. So you'll notice that I'm going to tuck my right foot toes under and then lift my knee and stretch back a little bit more before placing the top of the foot back down. And then see if you can turn your right hip forward so it's just about square with your left hip. Now, some of us have injuries in our left hips, or our hips are just not as easily open, especially in the winter. So if that's the case, slide a blanket underneath the base of your left hip. And that will help to create a little bit more allowance for you to eventually go deeper with time. Now, wherever you are, you can start to make your way down into a fold. And for pregnant bodies, I recommend bringing a bolster towards the top of the mat and then staying here to create space for the belly. Some of us who are especially having trouble settling the thinking mind might like to hold the forehead with the two palms here, which is a really nice way to cue the brain to settle. It's important to notice that in our grounding practice, we're not merely collapsing our weight, but rather we're establishing a relationship with the ground through our ability to release into it. And then equally accessing space through the body, length through the spine. So it's never just dropping down, but rather expanding and broadening as well. Now from here, for pregnant bodies, I recommend pivoting the bolster over to the right and then turning the chest over the top of the left foot for a little bit of a twist. For those bodies who would like to try another variation than twisting open, take your left palm forward, as far forward as you can walk it, and then weave your right arm through and over to the left, resting on the outside of the right side of your head. And you can bring a block underneath the right side of your head. I'm just going to spend some time in a little twist here. Now, again, this twisted shape can be a lot on the left hip. So if you find that you get into the twisted shape and it feels rather intense, visualize your breath traveling down and expanding into the bowl of your left hip, like the way that water pours into a vase. And then as you exhale, the breath floats from that left hip all the way back out through the crown. And that visual pathway of breath can help to unwind and settle the left hip a little bit more. Three more rounds of breath. Now place your palms towards the top of the mat. Tuck your back toes, lift that back knee. We're going to stretch back into downward facing dog. This will be our last downward dog of class. So as you place your 2 feet towards the back of your mat, put a little bend in your knees and pour your weight down into your heels. Constantly returning your awareness to that point of contact where you're meeting the earth, in this case, the hands and the feet. Feeling your weight settle there. And then from here, going to draw that right knee towards the back of that right wrist, preparing for pigeon on the other side. And keep your back toes tucked, lift that left knee, and then stretch back into that left heel before you drop the top of your left foot down. Now, when you get there, see if you can pivot your left hip forward. So again, it's more or less square with the right hip. It's a very subtle action, but you'll feel it. And then from here, make your way into that fold. So notice again that I'm more upright because I'm talking to you, but also sometimes it's better to stay upright because surprisingly, there can be more sensation in the body when we do less. Especially in our yoga practice and also our exploration of learning how to rest. There is no goal orientation of how far we go or how deep we go, but rather the exploration is about our capacity to surrender. So how do we surrender our goal orientation, our need to go as far and deep as possible to succeed or achieve? And if you do have that tendency, see if you can actually play with doing less in your physical body and your asanas, just as a way to practice being okay with doing enough. Now again, for pregnant bodies, you may be on a bolster here for your forearms, and then to come into the twisted shape, if you're here, then pivot the bolster over to the left around 10 o'clock. Then bring your forearms on that bolster so you're twisting open with the spine to the left. Okay. For everybody else, I'd invite you to extend the right palm forward and thread the left arm underneath for a threading pigeon pose, a threaded pigeon pose. Now again, you can bring that block, or if it's a little bit too edgy, you can bring a pillow underneath the left side of your head. And feeling the softness, the receptivity of the palms facing down into the earth, as if the palms had little ears at their centers, just listening into the earth, getting quiet. Slowing down the breath. Again, feeling the way that the breath travels in through the nose and down into the barrel of the right hip, swelling there. And then from the barrel of the right hip, traveling up and out through the nose on the exhale. One more full breath in and out. Now from here, walk your palms back in. Now we're going to stay onto our right hip and just lean over to the right hip a little bit so you can swing the left leg around. Straighten your legs out in front of you. Just give yourself a moment. You can remove the flesh from out underneath your sitting bones as I'm doing, and then use your hands to draw up and down the inner and outer legs. And just encouraging some heat and sensation, massaging open through the leg lines. And then from here, bend that left knee and draw the left leg out to the left. And then from here, turn your chest over in the direction of your left knee. You may even want to find your sternum with your fingertips and turn the sternum so that it is more or less in line with that left knee, best you can. And then when you get there, you can let maybe your fingertips come onto the floor, palms on your front thigh, then lean your spine back in space. And feel the head stack up over the column of the spine. As you feel that stacking, there's more resting back than pitching forward for most of us. That needs to happen to find the middle. And feel the sitting bone of your right hip settle towards the ground. So you may feel that the gluteal muscles that wrap around the right hip are holding. See if you can let them unfurl so that the bone can drape downward and connect to the earth. And then bring your right hand on a little bit of a journey, walking it towards the right foot. So towards, not necessarily to. And put a little bend into your right elbow. And go ahead and put your left palm on your heart and turn your chest slightly more open. Lean your body back in space. So you may notice that this in and of itself creates a deep stretch in the left waistline. You can stay here. I'm going to give you some options for going deeper. So from here, you can extend the left arm up and then allow the left arm to drape over the left side of your head. So you don't want to over effort through the arm for the whole shape, but rather find again that friend of gravity to support the left arm to simply rest over the top of the head. Now, for some of us, this can be quite a lot to hold. So I would recommend also considering putting a block down to support the elbow. And just making a fist with the right palm to rest the right temple on. And releasing the left arm up and over. Closing your eyes. And feeling your breath enter your nose and travel down to wash the left side of your waistline all the way into the core of your left hip. And as you exhale, the breath travels up and out once more. And give yourself a few rounds of breath like that so that the breath acts as an internal massage therapy. Sending warmth, energy, life force up and down the left side of the torso. And again, my body has a capacity and yours can look completely different. The point is, once more, not the destination, but the journey. So however you want to rest in this shape at whatever variation you want to be in, it's completely your choice. So also our ability to allow ourselves to rest is also to fully accept where we are. So wherever your body is at today, what it's asking for, how you respond is right. It's true. It is where you need to be. Take one more breath here, in and out. And then start by releasing your left arm. So if it was resting over the head, slowly release it. Then you can use the left palm on the inner left thigh to brace yourself as you come up. And go very, very slow. It's very important to go slow while coming back. Just give yourself a moment, settling in neutral. And then lift that knee up, stretch the leg out. And again, use your hands to massage the leg lines. So oftentimes it's very easy when we're on the go or feeling not rested to feel kind of asleep or tuned out of different parts of the body. So the simple action of washing the palms up and down the legs helps to awaken and enliven the legs. You can do that for any part of the body that needs a little bit of attention and care. Just letting your palms make sweet contact, gentle contact. Let's do the other side. So you can go ahead and bend that right knee, placing the foot on the floor, and then letting the knee drape out to the side. And then open your chest again so that the chest, the sternum, is turning in the direction of your right knee, and your legs, your thighs are more or less 90 degrees, right? Again, variation depending on your body. As you're here, start by resting back through the spine, through the head, as if you were supported through your back by a wall. And as you rest back, feel the way that supports your weight to settle down through your tailbone and sitting bones, the backside of your leg releasing into the floor. And especially that left sitting bone, which again is that little bony base of your left hip, is releasing down into the earth. And best you can, encouraging with your breath the release and unwinding effect in your left gluteal muscle. Or muscles. All the inner workings of the hip are unraveling and supporting release of the bones. And from here, take your left palm towards the left foot. And again, doing less, especially in restorative practices, is often encouraged. Putting a little bend into that left elbow. And bringing your right palm on the right side of your chest and turning open through your heart. Go further by stretching up and over through the right arm, and then allowing the arm to drape over the side of your head. Now, again, some people need a little bit more support here. And in that case, I encourage you to use the block. You can also keep it on the high height so that you're a little bit more propped and supported in the arc. Closing your eyes. The fist on the temple and the other arm meeting the upper temple helps to create a very gentle compression for the brain so that when we release, it actually creates the opportunity for the brain and the inner workings of the skull to expand like they were taking deep inhales when we unwind out of the shape. A little bit of compression here. Focusing on entering the breath through the nose and washing down the right side of the waist, all the way into the barrel of the right hip. And exhale up and out back through the nose. For some of us, one side is more intense than others, so you may need to adjust the height or the proppage depending on which side feels like it needs a little bit more support. Take one more full breath in and out. And to release, slowly stretch the right arm up and let the palm press down on the inner thigh. And very slowly start to shift your spine back to neutral. And close your eyes. Rest your head and spine back and feel that waterfall of weight pouring energy down into the tailbone and sits bones. And from here, you slowly lift that right knee, stretch the leg out, and again, massage the legs, or not even massage, just kind of acknowledging the legs using the palms to wash up and down the inner and outer sides of the legs. You can also shake the legs, which is a nice way to release through the joint space and encourage fluidity. And then from here, we're going to open the legs out wide, not your widest ever, just enough so that you can feel the open space in the inner legs. Before you do anything with the spine or the arc forward, see once again if you can lean the chest, the head back, so that the spine stacks vertically. Our next class next week is going to be all about centering. And you'll notice through this practice that our ability to ground and center are very linked. Using the example of breath, breath travels in and down through the center line, spreading out through the legs. And the exhale travels back up the legs, through the midline, and back out the nose. So see if you can trace that pathway of breath. And as you start to fold your spine forward in between the legs, notice that your capacity to shift forward doesn't break the line of length you've cultivated through the spinal column. If you're rounding a lot in the spine or closing off the front part of the spine, which is where your belly is, your sternum is, the front of your throat is, and make it really hard for breath to easily travel through the center and down to help you ground. Maintaining more so than a deep fold, maintaining more so the length through your spine as you fold. Breath travels in the nose, down the central channel, down and wide through the feet. Exhale from the feet, back in, up and out the nose. Noticing that we initiate breath with the inhale by grounding, by meeting the ground with our in-breath. One more breath in and out. And slowly walk the palms back in. Taking a moment here. And then bring your hands underneath the knees and slowly support your knees to bend one at a time. And from here, I recommended that everybody have at least 2 blankets for this class. So if you have those 2 blankets, then go ahead and situate them on either side of your mat about here. And then another one on this side. Okay. You may have 2 pillows, you may have 2 blocks. I'm going to demonstrate with 2 blocks because that's what I have today. So we always work with what we've got. So I place my blocks, which again might be 2 blankets, 2 bolsters, 2 pillows. Place 2 props on either side towards the lower edge of your mat. And then we're going to come down to lie on the spine. Then eventually we're going to bring the soles of the feet together, the knees splay out wide, and your props are supporting the thighs. So some of us may not feel fully comfortable folding the spine all the way to meet the floor. So if that's you, I'm going to demonstrate on an alternative setup, which is taking your bolster behind you. Maybe you take a block or just an extra prop like a blanket or a pillow underneath the top edge of the bolster. So it creates a little bit of height for the spine. Here, so either one, either the spine all the way down to meet the floor or supported by the bolster setup. And bring your palms on the pelvis, closing your eyes. And feel the way that the breath expands the bowl of the pelvis to lift up into your palms on the inhale. And how the bones of the pelvis unwind and release into the earth as you exhale. You'll notice as you journey your awareness into the pelvic bowl that there's not just the pelvic bones themselves, but also there are ligaments and organs and muscle and connective tissue in the pelvic bowl. So see if you can travel your breath in through the nose and down into the very center of your pelvic bowl. Feeling a little bit of expansion and space as you do. And then exhale, feeling that sense of unwind and settling. Now you can stay here for however much longer you would like. A few more rounds of breath. However, if at any point you feel ready to extend your legs and let your palms face up alongside your hips, Make way into Shavasana from here. So again, either supported Shavasana with the bolster underneath your spine, or Shavasana lying fully on your back. And feeling again the weightiness of the bones of your body. Not heavy in the sense of lethargy or fatigue, but rather just realizing their weight, experiencing their wholeness, their true density, and allowing the bones of the body to act as little anchors connecting you to the earth. Knowing that the skeleton is the structural support for your body. And when we fully release into it, it creates more space and opportunity for all the other parts of the body to also do their work freely. The organs to rest inside the structure of your bones. The blood to move supplely through the pathways, veins. Your muscles to effortlessly rest on top of the bones without gripping them or over efforting to keep them in a certain shape. We're giving ourselves time to fully release into the weightiness of the bones. And as we do, allowing ourselves to experience our connection to Earth a little bit more fully. And from here, become aware of the way that breath travels through your nose and down into your fingertips and toes. The exhale travels back up and out. And this next inhale, as the breath travels down, let it spark movement into your fingers, toes. Eventually, that movement spirals into your arms and legs. You can place one foot at a time on the ground and rock over to your right side. Taking a moment in fetal posture. Supporting yourself to come up into a seat. And from here, we're going to make way into a comfortable seat. So you can sit on a blanket, and I'll just show you. I like putting the corner or the edge of the blanket pointing forward so that my thighs can release on those outer edges downward, like so. I want to try that. Sitting with whatever heel feels best in front of the other. And from here, we're going to move into pranayama or breathing practice. The practice we're going to be exploring today is called Chandra Vedana. So Chandra is Sanskrit for moon. So this is a breath that allows us to connect with the energy of the moon in our bodies. So it's associated with night, with release, rest, with winding down. It's a cooling breath too. So if you need to put another layer on or put an extra blanket over your thighs, you may want to do that. And the way we come into it is bringing your right hand. So I'm not mirroring you. This is my right hand too. So just know that. So you're going to curl the first two fingers, so the index and middle in, and try to stretch out the other three fingers, thumb, ring, and pinky. Best you can. It's called a mudra or a hand gesture. So we're going to try that. It takes time. It's taken me years to get this type of extension. So just know that. Do the best you can. And then you're going to just place your thumb on the edge of your right nostril, and your ring finger will be placed on the edge of your left nostril. You're not going to close the nostrils just yet. You're just placing the fingertips there. As you get there, take a few rounds of breath in and out through your nostrils with the fingertips grazing the outer edges of your nose. Now from here, we're going to start the breath. So Chandra Vedana is an inhale through the left nostril and an exhale through both nostrils. Take a full breath in and out. And then close your right nostril with your thumb and inhale through just your left nostril, slowly and gradually. And as you exhale, open your thumb and breathe out through both nostrils. Again, close your right nostril with your thumb and inhale through just your left nostril. Release your thumb and exhale through both. You're just going to work with this for the next few rounds of breath, simply establishing the pattern of inhaling through your left nostril and exhaling through both nostrils. Make sure as you're here that your shoulders are relaxed, your arm is releasing, that your whole body is restful as you breathe. Now, if you want to take this practice further, going to add in a counted breath. Again, you don't have to. It's kind of like a level 2 to the practice. So either stay with what you were just doing, or as you inhale, inhale for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 8. So you'll inhale through your left nostril for 4. And you'll exhale through both nostrils for 8. Essentially, the counted breath is doubling the exhale from the length of the inhale. So if that feels like too long of a breath, you can shorten it to an inhale for 3, exhale for 6. Coming into a few more rounds of this breathing practice. Make sure that, especially if you're choosing the counted breath version, that there's no gasping or tension that accrues in your body with the breathing, that you're simply meeting your capacity with the length of the breath. Let's do 3 more rounds here. after your third breath, release your palm. Just let your palms rest on the tops of your thighs. Close your eyes. And notice the effects of the breathing practice. You can scan through what's called the koshas, or the layers of the body, to gauge for effect in your physical body, your thoughts, your energy. And also, a deeper layer is the wisdom self. So, any sort of deeper wisdom or insight you accrued from the practice. And the deepest layer is called the bliss body. So, your ability to experience a joyful present moment, essentially. So, just gauging any effect that the practice had on any of those layers of the self. Now, from here, go ahead and refreshen your seat if you need to. Just readjusting through your thighs, maybe switching the cross of your legs. We're going to move into meditation now. So as you freshen your seat up, you may want to rock a little bit through the spine, just like a buoy floats over the ocean and finds its effortless float with a little bit of sway. You're allowing your spine to sway and calibrate to find the center, the effortless centered seat. And as you do, notice full release through the legs, the pelvis, establishing your connection to the earth. And then find your breath. Slow, gradual inhales. Full release of exhale. I'm going to offer a mantra or a phrase that you can incorporate into your meditation. You can also choose to not work with words and just focus on breath. Choice is yours. But I'll offer you the phrasing and you can choose to either take it or leave it. So as you inhale, the phrasing is, I will simply pause here. And the exhale, so that I can restore. Inhale, I will simply pause here. Exhale, so that I can restore. Let's work with those phrases for a few more rounds. You may also choose to shorten the phrasing to just using one word per breath, so that each inhale you would whisper to yourself inside of yourself, pause. And exhale, say to yourself, restore. So inside your mind, a little whisper, pause. A little whisper, restore. letting the words ride the breath. Take about 3 more rounds of breath. And after your third breath, you can release the phrase or the words if you were working with them. And just allow your body to move a little bit, whatever way feels good. And then from here, if your eyes aren't open already, very gradually begin to open the eyelids, like you were slowly parting open window shades in the morning, keeping your eyes nice and soft. Then go ahead and grab your journal and your favorite pen. And we'll share a little bit about the journaling for our course. So during these classes, I will be offering you the prompts and a little bit of time to brainstorm or to write down initial responses. And my recommendation is, even if an answer doesn't come easily, let the pen write and see what comes. And in your own time or while you're watching this recording, you can also press pause and write for longer. And I recommend writing at least a page for each question. And every class will offer 3 questions. Some of the questions will have 2 parts to the question. Okay, so the first question for today's class. What does being well rested mean to me? What does being well rested mean to me? I'll give you some moments to jot down initial thoughts again. Feel free to pause and write for a page or however long you'd like. And the second part to this question, list some people I know who possess this trait. List some people I know who possess this trait. Now, you may choose to expand this question to include people, places, or things. Or you can just work with people. Whatever your initial impulse is, follow. Second question. How do I support myself to rest? So this is a question about your current self. How do I support myself to rest? And write down some ways that at this point in your life, you allow yourself time and space for rest. Second part of the question, what can help me to be more well rested? Again, what can help me to be more well rested? Third question, this is the last one, also has two parts. First part, what old behaviors get in the way of me allowing myself to rest? What old behaviors get in the way of me allowing myself to rest? This can also include learned behaviors from institutions, culture, childhood, people that you were raised around, any old behaviors that get in the way now of you allowing yourself time for rest. Second part of the question, am I willing to let them go? Am I willing to let them go? So again, you can write for as long as you'd like on those questions. You can close the book for now, set it aside for maybe after this class ends or another point in the morning tomorrow or any time during this week that you have some time to really go into your journaling. I invite you to work with these questions. Put your journal aside for now. Let's close in our seat. Refreshing your seat as you need to. Bringing the palms to meet at the front of the heart. Closing your eyes. And taking a moment in gratitude to yourself for allowing this time for you to take care. Also expressing gratitude in your heart for anybody or anything that supported you to be here today. Also expressing gratitude in your heart for this practice and the ability to experience a well-rested state, which we acknowledge is a process and a journey. So with that, you can lower your chin towards your prayer hands as a gesture of sealing off this practice for now. And you can slowly lift your chin and very gently open your eyes. And thank you so much for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you next week, which is all about centering. Namaste.